Welcome back to another special, very special episode of the Root of All Success podcast. I'm your host, the Real Jason Duncan, and today we're going to release to you as a special episode on my show an episode where I was the guest. This was recorded back on August 7th of 2024. The host is Chad Burmeister, and he has a podcast called the AI for Sales podcast. And AI, of course, is all the rage. Everybody's using it, and it's a way more than just ChatGPT. But the podcast episode was titled, Take Your Business to the Next Level, Discover the Power of AI. And Chad just asked me a lot of questions about this, and I thought it would be cool for you to listen to this as a special episode. So check it out. Hope that you listen to it. Check out his podcast. Make sure you're subscribed not only to mine, but also go subscribe to his too. Hope you enjoy it.
I've got a really amazing guest with me today. He goes by the Real Jason Duncan, and that's his website. And I'm so excited. He runs master classes. He's very well known. If you've not heard of him, I'd be surprised. Jason is a former pastor and school teacher turned entrepreneur coach. He helps business owners build self-scaling, vacation-proof enterprises. He's the creator of the XOS method, and he's known for transforming operational dependency into strategic autonomy, significantly enhancing business value and personal freedom. He's been on TEDx twice, best-selling author of and host the Root of All Success podcast. And he runs a mastermind called the Exeter Club. For those who don't know, I just exited today, and I guess it was too little too late because it says Exit Without Exiting is the name of his book. And I exited with exiting. So go figure. But Jason, so good to have you on the show today. Thanks for being here.
It's an honor. Love it, man. And congrats on the exit.
Yeah. You know, I had another business and I was offered about $500,000 20 years ago to exit. And I decided not to exit at that point. And I said, well, the mailbox money of $5,000 to $7,000 a month is pretty nice. And that lasted for about a year or two. So $5,000 times 18 months, it never got to the $500,000 that I could have taken. And so I just said to myself, this time, if I got what I was looking for, I'm just going to take it. And I did. And it just happened about 4 hours ago. So
good for you, man. Well, 90% of businesses that list for sale never sell. So congrats.
Wow. Well, thank you. So help us connect with you, Jason. I like to rewind the tape and go back to the 3, 4, 5, the first memories you have as a kid when you're 5, 6 years old, maybe. What are some of the first memories? What did you love to do when you were that age? Were you in Nashville then?
Yeah, born and raised. I've always been into drawing as an artist. I have, when I was a kid, my dad had I think it was a 69 Volkswagen Bug. Maybe it was later than that, but orange. And I was just enamored with that car. So I was drawing as early as I can remember, drawing cars. And then all through school, I drew, and I was a very good artist in drawing. I was the president of the National Art Honor Society in high school, got accepted to 2 art colleges. I was on track to be a car designer. That was my whole life until it wasn't.
Wow. So there's something loaded in there. I love it, right? I remember going to Vegas and there was Danny Gans, the man of many voices, and he became such a talented guy. He died young in his 40s or 50s, but I saw his show probably 5, 6, 7 times. And he was supposed to play baseball, I think it was. And then he hurt his knee and he couldn't play. And he thought his life was over, and it was like, wait, I was supposed to be a famous baseball player. And it's always interesting where the world takes us because the talents I'm sure that you learned then are fully applicable to what you're working on now, probably.
Yeah, there's always overlap if you look for it.
That's right. You just got to look for it. Well, I love to kind of help, transition to dig in. So much has gone on with AI in the last couple of years. I've been working on this podcast, been around for 5. So before AI was cool, I like to say we were talking about AI. But what have you seen in your master classes, in your book? Is AI just a mandatory part of the business now if you're an entrepreneur?
Well, what's interesting about AI from my perspective, I think the short answer to that and the most direct answer is yes. But I think what's interesting about AI is that artificial intelligence doesn't actually exist. My opinion is like it all has to be originated with real intelligence, which is who we are. We've been created by the ultimate creator to be creators, and we can create things that can act and know things. They just do it much faster than we're able to think through it. That's, if you think about the first calculator, I mean, that was artificial intelligence. How do you calculate a big thing? Well, it's not really AI, but I get why we're calling it that. But I like to make that my perspective, because I don't want anybody thinking that there's anything other than real intelligence. Infinite intelligence is the creator, Yahweh, in my opinion, was most closely understood by Jesus Christ. And we are creators too, but there is no other intelligence outside of that and him creating us. So that's intelligence. Artificially, we can create things to think faster than we can, and we can program them to learn some stuff and to do things on their own, like calculators. But to your point, is AI required? Yeah, I think if you don't, and I don't think if you don't embrace it, like that'd be. I think I remember. I used to be a school teacher, so I remember seeing pictures back in the, I think, 60s, where teachers were holding up signs that calculators are cheating. You should not be allowed to use calculators. And then when Google came out as a search engine, teachers were like, "You can't use Google. That's cheating." No, those are life. So today, AI is life.
AI is the thing. Well, it's funny you say that, because when we launched the show, it was called Artificial Intelligence for Sales. And if you look at the banner now, we crossed out the word artificial and we said augmented. So I think that lines up pretty well to the definition you just shared, right? It has to start from somewhere. God made us, and then we get to, in turn, use our creative ability. The machine can't come up with the creative ideas yet. Maybe in 10 years with cognitive AI, I'm told there's going to be some pretty interesting things that happen, but it still comes back to people, and we've got to remember that. I went to a keynote one time, and Pam Didner said, "You got to remember who wears the pants in the AI family." Is it your watch and your computer telling you what to do, or is it you dictating how the AI should actually work and function?
That's right.
Pretty interesting. Tell me about AI in your world. Are you using it to promote your show? Are you where are you seeing it most prevalent in your business and businesses you work with?
Well, right now, the most prevalent way that I am engaged with AI is I use it for ideation and creation and copywriting. Those are the things that I use it for. So I have subscribed to ChatGPT Pro or whatever it's called. I just recently subscribed to Claude. Both of those are primarily designed for writing and creating copy and ideation. So I use those tools literally every single day. I use it for business cases. I'll give you a real world example of what I use today. I was signing up for a new service with a marketing agency, and they had like their cash price. They had their, if you finance it through their firm or whatever. And then I was like, well, I'm going to put it on a credit card. So I just asked ChatGPT. I said, look, here's the price they're asking. Here's what I'd have to pay if I did it through their financing. And here's the interest rate on my credit card. What is the cheapest way to do this if I pay it off in a year? And it did all the calculations, said, put it on your credit card. So I did. That's what I did. So I use it every day in every way that I can think of, but I'm not using it for automations. And I think that's where I'm missing out. I'm not using it for automations yet.
Yeah, got it. I ran into a company this last week called Tuesday.so, and I didn't even know SO was a .com replacement. So we'll see if it's going to be new or what. But you plug in the person's LinkedIn profile, and you've got your website, and it does all the rest. It can write the entire email cadence. It does the entire program. I was like, wait a second, how is that possible? I've seen these kinds of tools for the last 5 years, but to get to a point where all you have to do is put in the person's LinkedIn URL and the rest is all done.
That's cool.
It's pretty magic. So yeah, very interesting. Where's it headed? We're kind of talking around, how are we using it today? I think it'd be interesting to have a little a little number up in the corner that says how many man hours or people hours did you save this week, and you and I probably both saved 10, 20, 30 hours. In 10 years, I think you'll go, holy cow, that's 8,000 man hours we just saved. But where do you think it'll be in 2, 3, 5 years from now? What changes?
I think it'll be ubiquitous. I think if you look at how Google is the primary search engine that most people use, I prefer DuckDuckGo because they don't track me and sell my data. But nevertheless, Google's the primary one. But when Google started, it was very different than what it is today. I mean, Google has become a verb. It's become part of our colloquialism. It's what we say. Hey, you Googled it. Even if that's not what you mean. You mean, did you look it up on the internet? That's what you mean. But it didn't start that way. It started with, if I need to find something, I can go to this website called google.com and I can type in and it gives me stuff. And then it started becoming everything. When they introduced Gmail, probably was the biggest part of it. They introduced that Gmail, and then they had Google Drive, the Web 2.0 stuff. So it just grew into now I can't imagine life without Google. I can't imagine. I'm a Pixel. I'm an Android guy. So I love my Pixel phone and it's fully integrated in everything that I use. And by the way, I'm a Mac guy, but I hate iOS. So I figured out how to make those two operating systems work. Definitely. And I've done it for years. But I think where we're heading with AI, that it's going to be ubiquitous. It's going to be the same thing. So, for instance, ChatGPT, which is the darling of the AI world right now, that's the one everybody knows. I think it's going to become more and more every day of what we use. And who knows how it will morph. Is ChatGPT going to have recommendations for restaurants like Google does right now? When you go in, there's Google ratings. Well, are there going to be ChatGPT ratings based on some other method? I mean, I don't know where it's going, but I know that right now I have the ChatGPT app on my phone and I can have long conversations, like verbal, like it talks to me and I talk to it. And it's mind blowing. But where are we heading? I mean, is it going to be where right now I've got Google Home everywhere. So if I said, hey, and I'm not going to say what I say because then everything lights up. But if I say, hey, you know what? Everything lights up and listens to me, but it's very stilted. I used to think it was awesome, but now I think, man, I don't even want to ask it anymore because it doesn't know what I'm asking. If I say, hey, one specific question, it goes, well, I found some information on the internet. I'll send it to your phone.
Yeah, or ChatGPT to subscribe to this $11.99.
Yeah,
every other.
Yeah, when ChatGPT answers the question exactly, like it doesn't say here's 1,800 different sources. It answers the question. So I think it's going to change. It's going. And I'm not afraid of it. I know there's a lot of people doomsayers about how bad it's going to be, but I think right now, as I understand it, I think it's just going to make things a little better for us in terms of access and processing information.
Let's take a quick break to thank our amazing sponsors for making this podcast possible.
You know that sinking feeling when you're waiting on an urgent payment to come through? The one that you needed in your account yesterday to pay your guys for the last job and start buying materials for the next one? Yeah, you know that feeling. It's the feeling of a cash flow crisis, and it's a sign that you should be banking with Relay. Relay is an all-in-one banking and money management platform that puts you in complete control of your cash flow, all from your smartphone with no monthly fees. I love their app, by the way. I am a customer. With up to 20 free checking accounts, you can separate your cash for every project or set up dedicated accounts for things like payroll, taxes, and material costs. Relay makes it super easy to keep tabs on every dollar and know exactly how much money is flowing through your business. You can assign up to 50 debit cards to team members to cover everything from supply orders to coffee runs. You stay in complete control with the ability to set spending limits or freeze cards in seconds. They even have a Relay credit card that you really should check out. It helps tremendously with cash flow. And if you work with an accountant or a bookkeeper, you can assign them secure read-only access to your accounts, so they always have everything they need to keep your books in pristine condition. The best part? Relay is 100% online, so you never have to visit a busy bank branch in the middle of the crazy workday. From depositing checks to creating virtual expense cards, you can do it all from your phone without ever leaving the office or the job site. Get banking built for small businesses. Sign up in 10 minutes at therealjasonduncan.com/relay. That's therealjasonduncan.com/relay. And by the way, I am a customer. They're not just a partner with me on this podcast. I actually use them as I bank with them. So go check them out. therealjasonduncan.com/relay. Relay is a financial technology company.
Thanks for listening to our sponsors. Now, back to the show.
Well, one of my customers' name is Chris Wright, and he runs a company called the AI Trust Council. And some of the things that we talked about already around, think about the ethical side of AI, and ultimately who gets to play God in the AI, right? What's a right and a wrong decision, and how do we protect humans in AI as it gets deployed? So Chris is a really neat guy because he's working with, he's had meetings with JFK Jr. recently talking about this. He was in Vegas at one of those big shows having meetings with people. And so I think it's what do you think of the ethical side of this, right? Who's responsible for putting in the guardrails to make sure that it doesn't take over, right? Because there's a very real risk that the AI could actually be like the Terminator movie.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a deep question, and I don't know that I don't have enough information to be able to answer that. I think my opinion would be that the creators are the first guardrails of this. So as anybody creates it, and then those who adapt it and use it are the guardrails. But I'll also say that I am a unashamedly free market capitalist, and I want small government. I don't want government telling me what to do. I don't want government interfering with my life. But I do say that there are certain things that for the protection of our society that government may have to say, look, you can't do this. For example, and I'm not saying they should do what I'm about to say as an example, but as an example, these deep fakes are scary. They're not, at least I haven't been fooled by them yet. Like, I don't think I have. I think I've seen, but we're going to get to a place where I could have a whole podcast like I'm doing with you, and this is not you. Like, it's a fake of you. Yeah, and right. I just think that at some point we're going to have, the society's going to have to all raise our hand and agree. Like, I don't think that's right. I think there's going to have to be disclosures that are going to be legally required when it's not an actual person or their actual voice. In the same way that when you're writing a paper, you have to cite your references. So I think if you have a video, like I signed up for Hey Gen today. I've never used it. I just signed up for it today. But when you set up an avatar of yourself, like, I think you need to disclose this isn't really me. I don't know.
Yeah. Then those are the kinds of guardrails that I'm talking about. So I think you articulated exactly right. The creators of it, which is where Elon's calling a little bit of BS on what's going on right now, right? He's putting a time out there, and then the implementers of it. So talk to me about when you're working with entrepreneurs, presumably many of them have sales teams. Have you seen so far that AI augments a team to make them more effective? Like, could $1 million a year quota person now take on $1.5 million? Or is the CFO looking at it and saying, hey, we can have a smaller team because now they're all powered by AI? I guess, or could it be both? It could be one, both, or either.
Yeah. I do think, I think AI is going to interrupt the sales industry, but I think it'll be in a good way, because for any salesman who's losing his job to AI, well, you probably weren't performing at a high enough level to justify your position to begin with. So I'm not afraid of that. And there will be other positions and opportunities created as a result of AI. So I think it's going to be a net gain for us, not a net loss. But here's what I'm thinking about as far as use cases. I don't know how yet to use AI in my sales process to make it better, faster, stronger, other than copywriting. Like right now, I use it for copywriting and ideation and creation of things, but that's not live. But I did have a sales call today with a potential mastermind member. And now that you're asking me this question, I'm thinking about, well, what could I have done in that sales call to use AI to make that deal go better. So perhaps there'll be a live conversation between a salesperson and a prospect, but it's being listened to by AI, and the salesperson has visuals on what this AI can say, because the AI is not emotional. It's thinking through all of the what could be's and what should be said and all of the tactics, where the emotional human in that situation is too wrapped up into the moment. They can't think. But if AI goes, he said this 10 minutes ago, and what you just asked him, he didn't say the right thing. So ask him this question again. There may be a really great use case for AI actively listening to a conversation and helping guide the salesperson to ask better questions to lead to a close.
I love that idea. There's a company who does prompting in that, and they do something like that already. And I'm going to blank on the name. It's the name of a dog, like an Alaskan dog that guides you through the wilderness is the name of this company. And they've been doing it for 5 years already. I'm going to blank on it. But the other big one that I just heard about today from a friend of mine, Steve Richard, who's been in and around this online selling for a long, long time. He told me about clay.com. And he said, oh, yeah, you haven't heard about Clay? I go, funny you should say it. I heard about it last week. You're the second person in a week that's told me about it. So scale personalized outreach with better data enrichment. So they can tie into HubSpot and Outreach and all of the data sources and apparently help you personalize at scale. Humantic does something like that. I think there's a handful of companies, but clay.com seems to be an interesting one. Well, I love having these conversations. I know you've got dinner on the grill or shortly coming your way there in Nashville. Tell us something that you could leave with our audience, whether it's related to AI or not. But if you're an entrepreneur, a business owner, what's something that people should be thinking about? You've got a different set of lenses than everybody else here has. What do you think people should be focused on right now if you're an entrepreneur in the world we live in today?
Well, I think as an entrepreneur, I think what you should be focused on is what do you want most out of your entrepreneurship? And I think that most of us originally go into it, or maybe if that's not our original intent, at some point we wake up to the idea that entrepreneurship and business ownership should provide us freedom. It should provide us the opportunity to control the choices that we make each day with regard to how much time we spend in areas and to some other degree, how much money we make. So if you are not experiencing that freedom that you want, then you need to make a change. You need to figure out how to get there, because doing the same thing over and over and over and over again and expecting different results, of course, we all know is insanity. But that's what so many of us as entrepreneurs is. We're seeking freedom, but we just keep working harder at the same thing that's keeping us trapped in what's not allowing us to be free. There's a great book called U Squared. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's just YOU Squared. It's a small book. Price Pritchett, I think, wrote it. And in the beginning, he's telling the story of sitting in a restaurant and watching a fly slowly die as it's just trying to get out a closed window, because the fly can see through the window. And he's like, I want to be outside, but he can't. Obviously, doesn't matter how much he works and how hard he flaps his little wings, he's never going to penetrate the glass that he doesn't understand is keeping him from freedom. Where if he just turned around and looked at an open door, he could fly and be free. Entrepreneurs can do the same thing. Stop working so hard. It's not about the hustle and grind. You can get freedom if you just turn around and look for the exit. And sometimes you don't have to sell the business to get there. Sometimes you could do it and keep the business.
That's amazing lesson learned there. And I'll just share, because I exited today, and within the last 48 hours, the new team that's starting to get engaged, I went ahead and gave them the customer list, and they're using a dialer to call them. So in the last 24 hours, I got about 4 emails. Hey, Chad, can you send this quote to this guy? And I'm like, wait a minute. You just upsold a customer that's been on my books for the last 2-3 years? Chad, can you send a quote for this one? $2,500 for this and an extra $500 a month. They want us to manage their LinkedIn for them now. Wait a minute. I thought they wanted to do it themselves. When you have a different perspective, like the fly conversation you just shared, man, it's so important to hire someone who can help you look at it from a different set of lenses. So I think that's awesome. Well, I knew this conversation would be amazing. We come from the same roots. I think we have a lot of the same faith and belief system, and so I'm just glad we got to connect today. Thank you so much for being here, Jason.
It's an honor. Thank you very much. And if anybody wants to connect with me, I'm on Instagram at the Real Jason Duncan. Also on LinkedIn at the Real Jason Duncan. You can find me. I'll be happy to connect.
All right, everybody. Thanks for joining another AI for Sales podcast. Check out the couple of solutions we talked about. Clay.com, fresh off the wire. I just heard about it today. You heard about some of the other ones we talked about on the call. What a cool conversation. Jason, have an amazing day. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for listening to another edition of The Root of All Success with the Real Jason Duncan. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, visit therootofallsuccess.com to access the show notes and other helpful resources. Follow Jason on social media at The Real Jason Duncan. See you again next time here on The Root of All Success.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.